guys, it's Kay. So I'm finally going to be doing the review of the Flsun pre-assembled Delta. I want to start off by apologizing that it took so long to have the review out. I wanted to wait until I got, it fully functional and everything, and I have to admit at this point it's not. I haven't gotten a single print out of it. But I decided to go ahead and do the review anyway because, I thought that I would at this point. I know you guys want to see it, and to be quite honest with you, I don't think that any amount of print quality is going to make up for everything that I've experienced so far. So I just wanted to go ahead and get that out. If you can't guess already, I don't recommend it, especially not to a beginner. If this is, going to be your first 3D printer, don't do it. So I'll go ahead and start first with the overall assembly. It was pretty much like assembling something from IKEA. The overall assembly instructions, there's 6 steps. They have the little illustrations. They're kind of okay to follow. It wasn't too bad. It took like 1 to 2 hours. I probably would have taken less time if I started off with 2 people, which is what I recommend. Pretty much you just need one person to hold things while the other person screws things together, and that's really it. I kind of struggled with things for an hour before I got someone else involved, but that's really it. But the reason that I don't recommend this is the overall lack of quality control. When you're building a kit, you are the quality control. You're putting things together. You notice step by step if something is wrong. Because it's pre-assembled, because everything was done for you, the quality control should have been done for you, but it wasn't. It wasn't at all. And you're under the assumption that it was. So I kind of had to backpedal after putting things together to look over and realize, like, wait, this wasn't done right and this wasn't done right. And I know you guys had some concerns about that as well with the unboxing video, seeing things fall off. I tried not to be too concerned about it. It wasn't packaged very well just because there were a couple pieces that had, like screws poking through them and like holes in them, and then there were screws falling off. The screws themselves falling off, they have some screws that they come halfway screwed in. I'll show you when I walk through the printer, but so I wasn't worried about them falling off just because they came loose, and I could see that in packaging. The wire that fell off was never plugged in, even though it should have been. There were a few other wires that I had that weren't plugged in. So the X motor was not plugged in. It was plugged into the board, but not to the motor. It should have been plugged into the motor. The Z and Y motors were both fully plugged in, but they actually were reversed on the board. So, or not reversed, but swapped. So when I was testing everything, I realized that, the controls were swapped. So I had to go back and do that. And it's like, this is really, simple stuff. But if you're a beginner and if you don't know what you're doing, this is going to be really difficult. So yeah, what else? The power cord, it arrived as a UK style power cord, which wasn't a huge deal. I got an adapter for it. The power supply was set to 220 volts. So if you do get this, of course, make sure to check. It doesn't mention anywhere in the instructions to do so. It's not too hard. I mean, there's just a switch to 110 volts, so that's not a big deal, but it is something to keep in mind. If this is your first 3D printer, if you don't know how to do that, that can be a real concern. Other than that, with my own personal experience, I'm also having an issue right now with the hot end. That's why it's currently not working. I'm not able to get filament through. There's some sort of a blockage, not even that far into it. I did reach out to Flsun, and their overall advice was just take apart the hot end and rebuild it, which wouldn't be too bad if this was from a kit. The thing with pre-assembled models is they're not meant to be taken apart. It's not built to be worked on. It's actually harder to work on it than with a kit, because with a kit it's all accessible. It's all something that you put together. It's all right there. You know where everything is. So it's actually harder to kind of backpedal and work on this than it is something that I built from scratch. So it's been rough, guys. I don't know when I'll actually have it fixed. I'm planning on, working on it within the next couple of days, but we'll see. I'll let you guys know. Other than that, I noticed someone else, I'm in a couple 3D printing groups on Facebook, and someone else had bought the same pre-assembled Delta from Flsun, and they actually had some issues with the wires that were heating the heated bed. It looks like they're using 14 gauge wire, which is honestly too small. They should be using 12 to 10 gauge for a heated bed. In his case, the wire was just regularly insulated wire. It got way too hot and the insulation melted. It looks like they didn't solder the connections from the wire to the heated bed, which I think was intentional. I think that they realized that the wire is going to get too hot and they're not soldering it because they don't want the solder to melt. So in my case with mine, they have 14 gauge wire that's just thermally insulated and not soldered. So I did heat up the heated bed to 55°C, and the wires do get really hot. To be honest with you, I don't really feel comfortable leaving the heated bed running for an extended time. I don't know why they would do that, guys. I just feel like it would make a lot more sense to do like 12 gauge wire, regularly insulated. I feel like that would be a lot cheaper too, but that's that. So that's pretty much it. I'm gonna go ahead and walk you guys through the printer, but I just wanted to tell you guys about the experience first so that I could, you know, kind of portray that when I'm going through. I can't recommend this printer. Lastly, I just can't. Especially if you're a beginner. I know I'm getting kind of repetitive here, but the quality control was not there, and you would expect that with something pre-assembled. You're expecting it to work out of the box, and it's not. So I'm gonna go ahead and walk you guys through the printer. Alright guys, so this is the pre-assembled Delta by Flsun. Of course, it's nice and tall. It looks really nice. You know, it has that that nice white metal. The spool holder is up on the top. It's a 3D printed part on a bearing. My 3D printed part had a hole punched through it by some bolt in shipping, but it doesn't really affect things. It's on the bottom, so you can't even really see it. It's fine. Just thought I'd mention. The filament comes down here, and the extruder is right up in here. Now, this is my first overall problem with the design. The actual gears and everything for the extruder is back facing the corner, and you can't, I mean, I have pretty small hands, and I can't even like get back in there to work on it. You can't even really see it. I don't know why they would have it not facing out, but that's the way that they do, and it's honestly pretty hard to try and load filament, and if I had to work on it, that would be kind of a nightmare, to be honest with you. I'd probably have to take it off. Let's see here. So the wires for it connect up here. My second issue with the design is you have this long black wire leading down from the bottom, and as you can see, I just taped it up there with some electrical tape. They really didn't have anything, you know, anything to mount it with. It was just kind of hanging, so I just electrical taped it up there rather. Then this comes down to the hot end. I will say I like that they have 3 fans. Let me walk you around here. So they have 3 fans, 2 on the actual print. You see these 3D printed pieces here that are funneling the air onto the print surface, and then 1 on the heatsink for the hot end itself. So I like that a lot. In case you were wondering, the heatsink fan is on as soon as you plug it in, and the other 2 are controlled by your slicing software. So that's pretty cool. It gives you some control over the fan, as well as that, you know, security piece of having the fan always on. I'll give you, there's a view of the actual, if it'll focus, there you go, of the actual hot end. So far it's not working. As you can see, it is kind of going to be a pain in the butt to try and take it apart because you've got all the wires already wrapped, everything is already connected. So yeah, but that's what I'll be doing. I do want to mention as well, you know, I don't know if, I guess there wasn't supposed to be a screw there, but it looks like it is missing one. I'm not sure. I just thought I'd mention. Let's see here, the heated bed. So one thing I found really interesting, kind of annoying, with the heated bed is it came with this adhesive. I don't know if you can hear, but it's sticky. And it mentioned in the instructions that it will only run with this double-sided adhesive on. I'm sorry, it'll only run with the auto probe, with the double-sided adhesive on it. And I cannot fathom why it would need a double-sided adhesive. If you watched the unboxing video, you saw all those adhesive sheets that it came with. So I guess those are the replacements for these. I'm not sure how long it'll last. I'm hoping that maybe it'll help with print adhesion, but I mean, this is kind of a concern. I don't like the fact that I'd have to use like a disposable sheet. So I'm gonna probably try and look into more permanent options. But yeah, I don't like that it's always tacky. Here are the two wires, these two blue wires that heat up the hot end. And I mean, they look thicker than they are because of the thermal insulation, but they're about 14 kg. Excuse me, they do get pretty hot. And this is for the thermistor right here. Right underneath, this is the USB cable, and this is where you put in the SD card. And honestly, this is a big hole here for an SD card. It looks like this is really the only vent hole they have for the underneath. If you notice, the whole printer is just, it's sitting on this metal and it's just directly down. No air can get underneath. So you have the power supply and the board, both of those things get hot, and they're right underneath the heated bed, which also gets hot. And there's no real way to dissipate that heat. I mean, they all have fans on them, but this is really the only hole to let air out of. So I might look into to putting it on stilts or something. This is the power cord here. Gotta be honest, it looks a little sketchy, but you know, that's where it is. I'll be replacing it anyway with a American plug. Let's see here. So each side has two rods. This is the x-axis, the y-axis back here, and the z-axis. You have a little ensemble here, you know, it just slides down. I honestly don't like that it slides directly onto the rods, because it seems like there are some places where the rods are just ever so slightly thicker and it doesn't want to, you know, go as well, but so far it's been okay. The belts came pre-tightened, or not, I'm sorry, not pre-tightened, pre-cut. Up at the top here, you'll notice, you know, it's like a little pulley, and that attaches up here. So if you need to tighten your belt, you just twist this to tighten or twist it to loosen. And the actual motors themselves are directly underneath. You can see the four screws there to mount them. So I'll also show a picture of when I'm done of the bottom so you guys can see it, because that's really where everything is. One other thing that I wanted to mention. A lot of the connections in this printer are with these little push pin. I'm sorry, I don't know what the actual term is, but these little push pin connections. And honestly, I don't know how well you can see. They were not crimped well. They were coming apart. It isn't good. It isn't good, guys. I am going to go ahead and wrap them and, you know, make them a little bit more secure, a little more safe. But I wanted to show you guys first what it looks like, because it's not good. Down here is the touch screen. So it looks nice. It's a real nice looking display. I have to be honest with you, I personally don't like a touch screen on a 3D printer. The only reason being, I have had a lot of issues with touchscreens in general in the past, and I prefer having like a hard button, especially on a 3D printer. If I'm printing off of an SD card and I'm having an issue, I want to make sure that I can get to it without any issues and not have an issue with the touchscreen. But I know a lot of people do love them. That's just my personal preference, and it does look nice. So that's pretty much it. My only other design issue with it is these panels here. They're supposed to connect at the bottom via 3 little tabs, and I couldn't get any of them to actually go in the slots. They also hold with a little screw here, so they're kind of just hanging by that screw. It looks okay. I mean, it holds okay. It's not really supporting the printer. It's just an aesthetic thing. but it doesn't go together well. So anyway, I thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to go ahead and put up a picture of the bottom just so you guys can see what it looks like. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed the review. Once again, I'm sorry it wasn't a full review, that I couldn't get print quality out there, but I wanted to just have the overall review out there for you guys, and to be honest with you, I don't think print quality is going to change my mind on anything, but I will be sure to update you guys once I do have it up and running, once I do have some print quality updates for you guys, so I'll be sure to post that once I do have it. But I thank you guys so much for watching. If you do have any questions, please put them in the comments below. But that's pretty much it, so I'll see you guys next time.